music's you got it. All right. Thank you. So we're looking at a series on money and finances. Today we'll talk about money and income. So last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, we spoke on debt. And to get out of debt, you have to have money. If you're in debt, if you want to get out of debt, you got to get money coming in. You got to get some income, and you got to increase your income. And I'm not an expert on anything I'm telling you about. I want to be very clear on that. Please don't think that I'm up here judging anybody. If you have made a mistake with money, I have made that mistake many, many times. And I am not an expert now, so don't feel like if I'm saying something, I'm like looking down on anyone. I am not. I'm just trying to help you in any way I possibly can, and I would encourage you to look into people who really are good with this. I mean, much better than I am. And if they were here, I would not be talking about it. We'd let them talk about it. But they're not here, so you're stuck with me. But I can help you a little bit on income because I have been able to increase my income, and it's not accidental. Now, again, I'm not an expert on it, but there are some things that I've learned that have helped me and done me well in business. I don't have, I didn't finish high school. I don't have a college degree. I don't have certifications in anything, and yet I've been able to start a business, employ 10 people, and feed their families and my family, and done okay. So there are some things I can teach you a little bit about that I looked at when I was doing this and making $10 an hour, and realizing that if I wanted to get $60,000 in debt paid off before I was 80, I was going to need to increase my income. And so I didn't go find a high-paying job. I took a job that generally doesn't pay a lot. So construction is generally not a high-paying job, and I figured out ways to make it pay more money, right? And that just comes down to some basic principles. It's understanding money and understanding how it works a little bit, and understanding income. And you can take any job and make it where it produces more income. You can do that. It's going to take some hard work and some innovation and staying up late at night figuring some things out. And over this week and the next time I do it, I don't know if that'll be next week or the following or when I'll do it, but we're going to talk more about this. So it's really kind of a two-part thing, so I hope you'll be there for both of them. Before we do that today, let's just talk a little bit about money and understand what money actually is and how it works. In Ecclesiastes chapter 10, there is an aphorism, a statement that Solomon makes about money. He says, "A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes you merry, but money answers all things." Now, whether that is a purely positive one or it's kind of a cynical one, it's hard to say. There's a lot of dispute on it. But I just want to point out to you that it's essentially a true statement, right? The answer to everything at the end is money. You have medical problems, it's money. Right? You're cold, you need some money. Money answers everything in the end. So this idea that somehow as Christians we should say, "Oh, we don't care about money," that's silly. Money really is the answer to everything. Now that's an overstatement. It is. Right? Money doesn't buy everything. But you can't buy anything without it. So it doesn't buy everything, but everything that can be bought must be bought with money. So do we have to, let's not be, it is hyperbole. It's an overstatement. It's meant to be that. It's overstating the case a little, but it's still basically the true statement. So it's very important as Christians we understand money. One of the problems I find in Christians is that we just are very bad with money. And it's not just me that thinks that. And that's really not my personal insight either. Jesus taught this in his parables. So if you go back and read the Gospels and read the parables of Jesus, a lot of the parables of Jesus, a good percentage of them, are about how bad Christians are with money. In fact, one of his most controversial parables is the parable of the unjust steward, and the moral of the story at the end was that the children of darkness are better at these things than the children of light, and he's lamenting over that. Jesus does not think it's a positive that Christians are bad with money. He thinks that we should be the best at money, understand it the best, handle it the best, use it in the best possible way in all senses of that word. We shouldn't be so lousy at it. We shouldn't be so ignorant about it. And we are. And I don't just mean you, I mean we. I was terribly ignorant, and I still have ignorance. I mean, I'm still trying to learn this stuff. So don't think I'm saying I know everything and now I'm so brilliant. We are really bad at money. And Jesus in his parables is saying we should not be that way. We should understand how money works. And, obviously we all have our capacity. And if you're starting out late in life, well, it's going to be probably harder for you to do that. And maybe you'll be limited on what you can do than if you're young. But you young people here, don't follow the course that I took. Don't wait till you're 50 years old to try to figure these things out. You need to figure them out right now. And we're going to talk about that in a few weeks when we deal with investing and if you would take seriously what I'm telling you right now, if you're under 20, if you would listen to what I'm saying and just do what I tell you to do, you would radically transform not just your life, but the life of your children and your grandchildren and their children. With very simple little things to do. Not hard. You parents, you might never be a multimillionaire. Most of you, if you started right now with what we're going to deal with over this next few weeks, you'll retire millionaires if you'll do it. You will. No matter what your income is right now. You will retire a millionaire if you do what I tell you to do, starting right now. But you probably won't get much over about $1 million. But if you're under 20, and you'll just do what I tell you to do, no matter how hard it seems, and just make it a habit, you'll retire a multimillionaire. And you never have to have a job that pays over $20 an hour to do it. That's just math, and we'll look at that later on. Give you a little teaser of what's coming up. But you need to be better with money. If you're not good with money, here's the thing about money. One of the things, you cannot out-earn your spending. You cannot out-earn your spending. You can always, no matter how much money you make, you can always spend it faster than you can make it. Because there's always more people willing to take money from you than to give you money. If you don't believe me, come up after the meeting and I'll give you a visual demonstration of that. We'll see how much money I'm willing to take from you as opposed to how much money I'm willing to give you, and then I'll teach you a valuable life lesson. No, everybody is out wanting your money. Very few people are wanting to give it to you. So the only way you're going to end up with more money than when you started is you're going to have to lower your spending. Because you cannot raise your income enough. We see this in movie stars, especially athletes. Athletes are notorious for this. They'll get a contract. I just read about one recently who was making like $80 million a year, and he's broke. You say, how can you make $80 million a year and be broke? Because there's people out there willing to take 80 and 1 million. But he couldn't find someone willing to give him the extra million. Okay? So you say, why are we talking about money in church? Well, one is Jesus talked about money a lot. I would say half his parables talk about money. He's very interested in it, very concerned with it. We're going to find out why in a minute. You say, I don't want to think about money. That's good. That's real good. That's a good attitude to have. You know how you can get to the point to not have to care about money? By having money. It's people who have money who have the freedom to not care about it. People who don't have money, that's all they can think about. Because they have to pay the rent and they have to feed their children, and that takes money. And if you don't have it, then you can't do anything all day but to think about how to get it. But if you can resolve this issue and solve this problem and get some income coming in, you can have the freedom to not have to think about it. So that's how you get away from thinking about money. You got to get some. When you have enough to where you can provide for your family, provide for your bills, and you can keep your spending within your means, well, then you have a lot of freedom to have other interests other than how do I provide for my family. And you live in the greatest time in history to be able to do that. Just 500 years ago, it wouldn't matter what I told you. Every waking moment of your day would be occupied in figuring out how to get food on the table, literally. Now you don't live in that age. You live in an age where you can work 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week is all you have to do. And have a comfortable living and retire with money in the bank. We live in a great time. Now we should be utilizing that benefit, that blessing, and not squandering it, which is what I did for many years. Squandered that opportunity. You don't have to do that. You can do it differently, especially you young people. So let me make this statement here that I think is a biblical statement, but it's been incredibly perverted, corrupted, and co-opted by televangelists and prosperity gospel types. But I think it's a true statement. God wants to make you wealthy. God wants to make you wealthy. Now, I say that's been corrupted because it doesn't always have the form or the appearance that simplicity might indicate. That right now, if you don't have $1 million in the bank, then you're not in the will of God. That's the prosperity gospel message. That's false. That's not biblical. But God is not poor. He is rich. And He gives, it says, everything richly. It is not God's design for you to be poor. It isn't. It doesn't mean if you're poor, you're out of the will of God. We're going to get to this and see some of the complexity, but I just want you to understand the point I'm trying to make to you is this. Very simple point, very modest. You are not out of the will of God to be wealthy. There are Christians who believe, like the opposite spectrum of the prosperity gospel Christians, they believe if you're rich, well, then it's because you don't care about the work of God, you don't care about missions, or you don't care about the church, or you don't care about spiritual things. You're just a money-grubbing Christian, and you're just out there working, and you're not. That is not true. That is a false statement. Some of the best Christians you'll ever meet are extremely wealthy. If you could go back in time and meet Abraham, you would meet someone who was wealthier than some kings. David, very wealthy. Job, very wealthy twice over. He went bankrupt and became wealthy the second time, even wealthier. Now, there were poor Christians also. Many, many poor Christians. But I just want you to understand that being poor is not the same thing as being godly. And being rich doesn't mean you're the devil or you're doing something wrong. So if God wants to make us wealthy, then why are most of us not wealthy? So Jesus has an answer to this in Luke chapter 16, verse 10. Luke chapter 16, verse 10, Jesus says this. And this is coming after one of his parables on money. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If therefore you have not been faithful in unrighteous mammon, that means dirty money. If you haven't been faithful with the dirty money of the world, who is going to commit to you the true riches? And if you haven't been faithful in which is another man's possessions, who's going to give you your own possessions? This is a very brilliant principle, and it really should govern how we understand money and our income. You say, if God wants me to be wealthy, why am I not wealthy? Well, a big reason why is because we haven't shown ourselves to be able to handle it. We all would like our children to grow up and be able to handle dangerous things. Love is a dangerous thing. Marriage is a dangerous thing. There's jobs that are dangerous, that can hurt you if you're not careful. We all want our children to grow up and have that capacity to do things that are dangerous. But we don't start them out at that when they're 5 because they can't handle it. And if we give them a little plastic butter knife and they're sawing on their hand, we don't go, oh, wait, you're expending efforts poorly. Let me give you a sharp knife so you can do that real well. No, we say, you don't know how to use this implement. So we're not going to give you a real knife until you show me you know how to use a fake knife. We're not going to let you shoot a real gun if you don't know how to handle a toy gun. Right? We're not going to let you have a real thing until you can show us you can handle a fake one or a toy one or a little one, a safe one. God is doing the same thing with money. Money is incredibly dangerous. Paul says that we all need to be very aware of the danger of riches. It can destroy you. What they've done many studies, it's cliche. What happens to lottery winners? Now, not all of them are this way. There's some exceptions. But it is an incredible percentage, an incredibly high percentage, up above 50% of lottery winners in any country that when they win the lottery, it ruins their life. I was just listening. Somebody was telling me that guy who got super famous, what's his name, the singer, Anthony or whatever his name is, Poor Men of Richmond or Rich Men of Richmond, Oliver Anthony, and he says the worst thing that ever happened to him was hitting it big. His wife left him, divorced him, suing him for half of what he hasn't even made over songs he hasn't even written. Money is very, very dangerous. And you know, we're kind of like, I don't know if you've ever watched Fiddler on the Roof, but the movie or the play or the movie Fiddler on the Roof by Rhett Tevye. You know, they say one of his communist buddies tell him, money is a disease. And he says, well, may God strike me with it and may I never recover. Many of us kind of are like that, but you don't realize if you and I are so bad with money and we're handling such small amounts, what would our life look like if we just had endless supplies? If you and I were able to mess up our lives because of the little bit of money we could get our hands on and the bad things we did with it, imagine if God just had dumped a limitless supply on you, how you would have destroyed yourself. So no, God wants you to be wealthy, but he doesn't want you to be rich. Rich people, and using it in this way, rich is you don't know how to handle it, you just have more than you can mismanage. Wealthy is you know how to handle money and do it in a way that is safe and beneficial and profitable and useful, not just to you, but especially to those around you. See, that's wealthy people. Wealthy people, they're not pleasing themselves with money. They're serving their society. They're serving their community. They're serving their family, their friends, their employees. They're serving people. They're using that money to generate better lives for everyone around them. God wants you to be wealthy. And that's going to take some expertise with it. And what Jesus is saying, you're going to have to be faithful in a little bit. And when you can show that you're faithful with a little bit, I'll give you a little bit more. And at some point, I'll quit giving you loaned money and loaned wealth and loaned prosperity, and I'm going to give you your own. Because now you know how to handle it. So that's the principle that Jesus is telling us about this. This is where we come to the kind of the theme of all of these messages, and that is that when we look at, as Christians, when we look at finances and money and all these things, it's all about playing by the rules. Don't worry. You know, you can say, well, I'm looking out at the entertainment industry or the athletic industry, and I see these people making millions and hundreds of millions, and these people are exceptions to what you're saying. They are. I don't doubt that they're out there. You can become rich by other means, but you won't be playing by the rules. And as a Christian, we have agreed to play a game by certain rules. We don't get to be wealthy any way that we possibly can. There are things that I cannot do and I will not do and I should not do as a Christian, no matter how much they want to pay me to do it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much they want to pay me to do it. There are things as a Christian that I should not do. There are things you should not do. So one of the principles I have is I don't work on Sundays. I generally never work on Saturday, but I will occasionally. But I do not work on Sunday. I go to church. I just don't do it. And I've been offered double time, triple time. I don't work on Sundays. I go to church. I'm with my family. I do other things. I take a day of rest. Now, I'm not telling you that if you work on Sunday, you're in sin. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I have things as a Christian that I feel in my conscience. That's my rule. And for 15 years in construction industry, that's my rule. I don't do it. Now, I know there are trades and there are professions where that's not a possibility. If you're a doctor, if you're an ER doctor, if you're a policeman, there are many things. So I'm not condemning anybody. And even if you're in construction, you work somewhere. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just telling you I have rules that I have to live by within my conscience. And if I become wealthy, provided I'm living by those rules, I have no guilt associated with that then. I'm fine with that. Now, if I break my rules, if I break those rules to become wealthy, well, then I didn't get it honestly. Yeah. Okay. So, we have to play by the rules when it comes to income. Now, one thing I would like to dissuade you of or disabuse you of is to say is this idea and this statement that people, Christians, often make. I hear it all the time when I give these teachings and talk about this. Always someone will say, well, I'm just no good with money. And that's just kind of a justification, an excuse to just keep being bad with it. You need to quit saying that. First off, you're probably not nearly as bad with it as you think, right? You probably do know how to know when your check is light, when you didn't get paid. It's always amazing to me. I run a construction business. We do quite a bit of math in our construction business, and I have employees that are just seem to be as dumb as a box of rocks. I don't want to point to anyone in the room, but seem to be dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to adding up fractions. But they can add up fractions of hours, and when they didn't get paid every 1/8 of an hour they worked, they're real good at that math. And it's really amazing how good they can be at that math and how bad they can be at other math. So you're probably not nearly as bad at money as you're pretending to be. It kind of becomes a way of justifying bad behavior. Some Christians have the idea that as long as I'm giving offerings in the church, I can be as bad with money as I want. No. No. God, this is not about you giving offerings. Let's just be very clear about this. I'm not telling you this, you give offerings, and as long as you give offerings, then everything's okay. I'm telling you no, the opposite. God wants you to be good with your finances at home, in your retirement, in your personal life. He wants you to be good at it. Doesn't mean you're never going to have failures. Doesn't mean you're never going to make mistakes. Of course you will. You may even go bankrupt. Many Christians have gone bankrupt who were good with money. There's just a lot of unknowns out there. But you need to be doing all within your ability to be a good steward, a good administrator of what God is giving you. And that's what this really comes down to. So there are two equally bad but opposite mistakes that you can make with money. One is to love it, and the other is to hate it. They're both equally bad. Hating it and loving it are equally bad. We shouldn't love money. The love of money is the root of all evil. But we shouldn't hate it either. When you hate money, as some Christians do, they basically hate it. They wish we could just live without it. When we just, transcend it, well, you're giving it way too much power. It's like hating images or idols. When you hate a little idol, you're giving it power. You're pretending that it is something when Paul says the idol is nothing. Money is just a way of storing and transferring value. It's an amazing invention that allows us to store and transfer value. I can give you an hour of my time in a second. I just take out whatever an hour of my time is worth, let's say $10, and I hand you $10. and I have given you an hour of my life, and I only lost 1 second to do it. So I can transfer value to you. See how that works? It's an amazing way that we have of doing this. It does a lot more, but that's a simplification of this. So hating money is an error. Loving money is an error. What we need to do is we need to use money wisely. Now, understand what it is. Don't love it. Don't hate it. But use it wisely. That's what we need to be doing. And for most of us, probably everybody in this room, I assume, there may be one of you or two of you here that this doesn't apply to, but for most of us, that boils down to our income. Because that's our biggest source of money, is our income. Now, if you get into investments, and as your investments grow, and as you start really cashing in on interest and growth and dividends, well, then it may eclipse your income. But at the moment, most of you are probably like me, and income is where the most of your money is coming from. So we need to focus on the income. You need to focus on your income. You need to get your income up. Why? You say, well, I don't like money that much, so I don't need a higher income. No, even if you are a multimillionaire, your goal should be to increase your income, because your income reflects the value you are providing at your job. That's what it reflects. Now, it's not 100%. You can be a great worker, have a lousy boss, and have low income. It's okay. I was in that situation. I went in, started the business I'm in now. I started as an employee, making $10 an hour. The company that I worked for was averaging $50,000 a year in gross receipts. I worked for them for 6 months, and that year they grossed $500,000. Because I'm very good at what I do in that area. So I was able to increase their gross receipts. They increased my pay to $12 an hour. Now, that was very foolish. Because what I did is I just went out and I already had all the tools. I just went out and became their competitors and ran them out of business. But so yes, you can be a great employee and not have great income. But it won't last long. Don't worry about that. So I'm not trying to say if you have low income it's because you're a bad employee. It's not always that. But as an employer, I'll tell you, more often than not, that's what it is. You could be better at what you do, and your income would increase. Now, it's not always the case. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but that's the general rule. So that's what you have to focus on. Don't focus on, my boss isn't paying me enough. You can't do much about that. Not directly. You need to focus on being indispensable. Because if your current employer does not find you indispensable, somebody will. And in a free job market like what we live in today, there are employers out there, they're looking, you will be found indispensable by someone. And your income eventually will catch up and reflect that. So don't worry about whether you're making what you should make right now. Worry about whether you are providing the value that makes you indispensable. That's what you need to be looking for, because that's what it's about. I love this line in a movie. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. It's called For Love or Money. It's with Michael J. Fox. Can't even get it on digital, so it's obviously wasn't a blockbuster. But he has this line that has always stuck with me. He's a concierge of a hotel, and he's really good at his job. And he helps this old man that's staying in this real fancy hotel. He helps him out somehow. And the old man comes out with a crumpled up little, like a dollar bill or a $10 bill or something, and tries to give him a tip. And he hands it back to him, and he says, don't confuse yourself with all these little denominations. Just wait until I'm the best friend you've ever had. And then give a tip that is so painful, it feels like you're passing a kidney stone. That's what you need to be trying to do with your income. You need to become so valuable, so indispensable, that they will pay so much it feels like they're passing a kidney stone to do it. That's what you're shooting for. And that's going to take some time, some effort. We don't always succeed. I haven't always been successful myself. I have some. I've failed in other times. But that's always, to this day, that's what I'm shooting for. I am shooting to be so indispensable that my customers are willing to pay me 2 and 3 times more, and they cry about it. When I meet them, their office personnel, they say, "So you're the guy that takes all our money." I want to be like that. And like I say, I'm not 100%, I'm not even 50%. But that is my goal. It's always been my goal. I provide value. I'm not worried if I'm being compensated right now for every second of the day. I'm not worried about that. Because here's the secret that most employers aren't going to tell you. But I'll tell you. You are not an employee. You're a business. You are your business. You don't go to work and that's your boss. That's not your boss. That's your customer. Just like if you were running a separate business selling something and a customer comes in, you're selling cakes or pies or whatever it is, and they come in and buy, your boss is your customer and you're the business. And if you can find a way to make it where your product cannot be purchased by anyone anywhere else, cannot be provided by anyone else, you become indispensable. And they're willing to pay more for that product. Just like it works if Amazon or Walmart or someone sells something that no one else can sell, they can charge whatever they want to charge, and they're going to pay. That's what you want to be as things. So how do you do this? Very quickly. First is diligence. So when I come to church, I'm not conducting business. All I do is church. I don't think about it. I don't sit there and receive and send emails in church. I don't do business in church. But I don't do church at business. When I'm at business, I'm a Christian, but I'm not there evangelizing. I'm not there pastoring. I'm not there recruiting people to come to church. When I'm at work, I'm 100% at work. When I'm with my family, I'm 100% at work. That's where I need to fix things. Our family reunions are just business meetings. So I need to work on that, okay? Like I said, I am not an expert. But I have done pretty well on this. When I'm at work, it's work. That's what you need to be. When you go to work, you need to be 100% there. Nothing else is going on. My wife does not call me at work. If she calls, it's an emergency, and I take the call. And she's probably called 2 times or maybe 3 times in 15 years. I do not take calls from her. Now, I take calls from any of you at work, gladly. So that's kind of stinks for her. You should ask for some pastoring. Maybe then I'll want to take your calls. No, I don't. I want to be at work, and I want to be focused 100% on what I'm doing. I'm not texting people. I am at work because it takes all that I can muster to compete with the people who would love to take my income from me. There are people out there. You may think no one can do what I can do. Don't be so sure. I think I'm pretty good at what I do, and I am confident that there is an endless line of people that can do it as well or better than me. So I can't go and just be so confident and think, well, I'm good at it, and they can't get replacement anywhere. Trust me, they can. I have to be on my A game every single day because every day my competitors are out there and they're trying to take away my business. Just like I took away other people's business. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're stocking shelves at Amazon, filling orders, if you're pumping gas or whatever it is you're doing, there are people who would like to take that job from you, take the business from you, take the business from your boss. You need to be diligent. What does Ecclesiastes say? Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. That's how Christians should work. We should work with all our might. And we're going to talk more about this next week, but with all our might. So you need to be diligent. Second thing is you need to be innovative. Don't just do what you've always done mindlessly. There's an aphorism that really is. We'll talk more about it next week. But there's this one where you say, work smart, not hard. And there's a truth to that in a sense. Now, there's also a lot of falsehood in that. But you do need to work smart. You need to use your mind. You're not dumb. You're incredibly intelligent. And as you are diligent and apply yourself with all that effort and all that time, you will start thinking in your head, how could this be done quicker? How could this be done safer? How could this be done better? How could I put out a better end product? I want to do the best end product. So I do something really, most of what I do is really pretty simple. Not everything, but most of what I do is pretty simple. For those that don't know, like one of the things I do is I screw toilet paper roll holders to the wall. Now you would think, well, that's pretty mindless. And it kind of is. That's why the logo of my personal logo of my own company is a little monkey. Because I do monkey work. A lot of what I do is monkey work. And it's like, but you know, we can find ways to put that toilet paper roll holder on the wall better than anyone else can do it. And then we can charge $1 or $2 more than anyone else can charge. And if you do 1,000 of those, well, that adds up. That's the kind of idea. You need to be innovative. Figure out how you can do whatever it is you do. It doesn't matter. If it's manual labor, if it's office work, it doesn't matter. Figure out ways, unique ways to you that you can do your job better than anyone else could possibly do it. And add that value to your work. Don't say, hey, if you pay me more, I can do. Just do it. It won't always work out in the short term. I'll share an experience from my own. So when I first started doing what I do now, one of the first job I was given, they took me over to the airport. They had just built the new, that was 15 years ago, they just built those parking garages. And my job was to put together the fire extinguisher cabinets and mount them into the columns in the parking garage. And so they took me over there and they said, we figure it'll take you a week to do this. And they just come every day and put them up, and you should be able to do these in about a week. And so they showed me how to do it. I'd never done them before. They showed me how to put them together, showed me how to screw one on. Great. Show me how to look at the plans, find where they go. Okay, I'm set. I got it. So I looked at the process, I made some changes, and I was able to finish them in a day and a half instead of 5 days. Well, then the company says, well, we don't have any other work. That was the work for the week. So I guess you just have to go home. Now, they didn't pay me the 40 hours they were willing to pay me if it was taking me that long. They just paid me the day and a half, and then I went home and didn't get paid for 3.5 days. Now, that's fine. Whatever. You think, well, then I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do what I don't get paid for. It doesn't work that way. You be the very best you can be at all times. And let God sort out the injustice. There will be people who will take advantage of you. There will. In the end, in the long run, you will come out ahead. I guarantee it. There is a God, and He is just. And if they treat you unjustly, don't worry about it. Doesn't mean be stupid. If you get an opportunity with someone who's going to be more compensating, who's going to appreciate you more, then take it. There's nothing wrong with changing jobs. But don't hold back ever. Because you're not cheating your boss when you hold back. You're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself. You be the very best. So be innovative. Try to find ways. Figure things out. Third thing is you need to be a good steward. You need to not waste your money, waste your resources, waste your time. These are all things that you need to maximize the potential of them. So be a good steward. And the last thing is, you need to be an accurate reflection of Jesus. So, if you're not sure if you're being the worker you should be, if you're handling your money the way you should do, if your income is being done the way it should be done, just ask yourself this. If Jesus was installing toilet paper roll holders, how would He do that? And do that. If Jesus was fixing boat motors, if He was baking pies, if He was a policeman, How would he do it? And try to do that. Because ultimately, that is what your job is as a Christian. I don't think Jesus would be bad with money. I don't think Jesus would have lousy income because he's dragging his feet because he feels he's not being compensated fairly. What does it tell us in Colossians 3:22? Servants, obey in all things your bosses, your masters, according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing God. And whatever you do, do it with all your heart as to the Lord and not unto men, knowing that of the Lord you will receive a reward of the inheritance, for you serve Christ. Here is the second thing that your boss will not tell you. Your boss is not your boss. Jesus is your boss. That's who you're working for. Not just in church. When you're putting a toilet roll holder on the wall, you're not doing that for whatever GC, for Bartlett Cock or Turner or whoever it is you're working. You're not doing that for them. As a Christian, everything you do, you're doing it for Christ. That means he actually takes that as work being done in him, for him. He says, you're not doing that for some rich guy who has a boat he can't afford or know how to handle. You're doing it for me. You're not doing it for some general contractor who is abusive and doesn't appreciate anything. You're not doing that for them. Everything you do as a Christian, Jesus says, you're doing it for me. So I want you to do it to the utmost of your ability. And I'll repay it. I'll take care of it. It's like, what does the Good Samaritan say? Whatever you spend, I'll repay. So ultimately, we shouldn't be in the mindset of the Jerry Maguire mindset, right? Show me the money. That shouldn't be our mindset. Our mindset should be more like the film The Ultimate Gift. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's another little film, but this young man who's very irresponsible, his grandfather, who's very rich, dies and tells him that he's left him an inheritance, but in order to get it, he has to complete a number of tasks. And the tasks he has to complete are to teach him the value of work, the value of friends, all the different things in life that this boy has never appreciated. And when he finally completes the task well, he's given $100 million, which is amazing. But because of the tasks and how they've changed him, he takes the $100 million and he builds a hospital for terminally ill children. And because he does that, the grandfather had a secret clause, and now he gets $2 billion inheritance. This is what based on what Jesus is saying. He's saying, I've given you a little bit. Be responsible with that. And then I'll give you a little more. And then when you're good with that, I'm going to give you something that exceeds your wildest expectations. But you have to start with where you're at. Don't say, as soon as God gives me that bigger amount, I'm going to become real responsible. No, you won't. No, you won't. You know you won't. Why you lie to yourself like that? You have to start where you're at right now. Whatever it is, wherever you're at in life, wherever you're at in your station, wherever you're at in your income, right now, to Monday, go there with a mindset. When I get to work, I am working for Jesus. I'm not working for the company. I'm not working for the almighty dollar. I'm working for Jesus. And if that means I work for 5 years and nothing changes, doesn't matter. I know he's keeping counts. And you will see how dramatically your financial life will take a positive turn. You will. Now, this applies to everybody, even the really very, very wealthy, because money isn't the ultimate wealth. Money is not the ultimate wealth. The goal here is not to have $100 million in the bank, even though I wish all of you had that. I do. And we're going to talk about how you can ensure that your children have close to that with very little effort and very little investment. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. But that is not the ultimate goal. If your kids had $100 million and lost that spiritual light. Well, then they'd been better off growing up in India, in the slums of India. That's not the life we want. We want to play by the rules. The ultimate wealth is pleasing God, because He has the ultimate wealth. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Who's going to pray today?